The last example. And again, these are the types of problems you're going to see on the final exam. So word problems, word problems, word problems. We're pushing them. So 8 out of every 10 persons, well, first off, before I even finish reading that, go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to write down the problem, and then we're going to go through it. Okay, so 8 out of every 10 persons who contract a certain viral infection can recover. If a group of 7 people become infected, what is the probability that exactly 3 people will recover from the infection? Okay, so with that, we have 2 scenarios going on again. So either people are infected or they recover. So infected or recover. So we can say I and R are the two things happening. Infected and recover. And then of that, how many people are there in all? And if you look at it, it says if a group of 7 people become infected, what is probability of blah, blah, blah. So the total number of people in the group is 7. So when we do this, we're going to do I plus R to the 7th power. This is a group of 7 people. Group of 7. All right, now from there, we need to go ahead and set this up. But before we even set that up, we need to figure out what are we looking for? What is exactly that we're looking for? So the question says, if a group of 7 people become infected, what is the probability that exactly 3 people will recover? Exactly, not 3 or more, not 3 or less, but exactly 3 people recover. That's what we need to find out. So in other words, we're talking about where R is to the 3rd power, because that means 3 people recover. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to do with that, and we're going to write it out and figure out what's going on there. And then also go back and figure out what percentage they gave us here in the problem. So let's go ahead and come here. So here again, we're going to do a combination. We're going to go until we get to where we need to stop. Now with this one, I'm going to go through all of them again. But we're going to get, when we get down to the one that we need, then we can go ahead and go there. But if we don't need to do that, then we'll be fine. So hopefully by this point, we should have already seen that we already got to the number that we need, because we said that something happens with our exponents whenever we deal with these problems. We know R is our second term, I is the first term. And we said that the number back here talks about the second term, right? So just a refresher from a video we did earlier about looking at finding the exact value of that one term instead of finding the whole group of terms. So this one we're talking about that one term. So we should be able to figure out which one we need when we're talking about just recovering, just 3 people recovering. Because R is the back term, and we said the number inside of here tells us that exponent for that R. Oh, that's an R down there too. R. So that's not a D, it's an R. Sorry, my fault. So if we're talking about at exactly 3 people recovering, that means our R is going to be 3 again, like we said. But also remember, we said whatever this number is, it's going to be the number that's on the back here. So that means here, at 3 is going to go back there in the back, simply because this matches up with that right there. This will always be the same number as that. It always matches that right there. So then, what is the exponent that comes here? Again, we said we subtract these 2, and that gives us this exponent. So if we subtract them, we get 4. So 7 minus 3 gives you the 4, and that 3 goes in the back. And we're talking about exactly 3 people recovering. So this is the only one that we're dealing with right here. So let's go ahead and pull that out and just deal with that, because we're talking about where only 3 recover. So this is one of those things that if you know the actual rules it makes it a whole lot easier so you don't have to do a whole lot of work. Because math, everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's a word problem, it's so much work. If you know the rules, that means you don't have to do all the work. We can just jump to different places and be good. And do less work and be ready to go. Okay, so here, that's the one we're looking at because we're looking at exactly 3 people. Exactly. 3 people recover. So here, we're going to go back to the actual word problem again and look at it. And they give us a percent because we need to figure out what is the percent of being infected and what's the percent of being recovering. So if you look at the very first line there, it says 8 out of every 10 persons who contract a certain viral infection can recover. So with that, 8 out of 10 persons, so what percent is 8 out of 10? So it says 8 out of 10 persons. So we're talking about 8 out of 10 persons there. Okay, so we know from our whole thing when you learned about ratios and all that stuff, you can write them 3 different ways. You can write like this, you can write like this, so you can write like with the colons. But here, if we take this, what percent is 8 over 10? 80%. So that means 80% is for recovery. So that means what percent is for infected? 20, yay. And hopefully also you can see this is 8.8 for recovery. That's 0.2 for infected. And here again, we're going to substitute these into the problem and then get an answer. So first off, the combination of 7 and 3 is what? That's 35. So check your stuff in the calculator, make sure you remember how to put that in. The I, the infected, is 0.2. And the R is 0.8. Okay. And again, all we're going to do is put this into the calculator and we're going to be done. So if we put that into the calculator, and let me do my arrows to pull everything together. Okay, when we put that into the calculator, you get about 0.028672, and I think it stops there. All right, change that to from the decimal to the percent, so it means we move over 2 decimal places. So that's 2.8, let's say 87%. Because remember that 7 makes that 6 round up to 7, so we're going to just round to the 2 decimal places. All right, and so the last thing, because we're looking for exactly 3, and that was the only place that was exactly 3, not 3 or more, 3 or less, but exactly 3. So let's write this sentence. So there is a 2.87% chance of exactly 3 people recovering. And that's it. So this one's should have been a little bit easier because we didn't have to do a bunch of stuff. We just had to do one thing.